Welcome to a look into the future. What would you do if you can go into the future and ask yourself a question? Luckily, we can just ask the time traveler himself, Paul Latham. Paul brings three amazing things with him. Number one, he's built a successful accounting practice in the UK, so he understands accountants. In fact, he built his firm into an advisory powerhouse, which sold for $45 million in 2001. Number two, he's taken a business public, building it to a market value in excess of $400 million. So he really understands what business owners need and value, and what we as accountants need to provide to them. And finally, as I said, number three, we don't need to invent time travel. We can just ask Paul and learn from the transition he made 20 years ago in the UK into providing advisory services, as that trend is definitely here today in the United States. I'm Garrett Wagner, your Entrepreneurial CPA Channel host, and I'm really excited to be joined today, as always, by the legendary Paul Latham of Hay & Rock Solutions. On today's show, we're going to expand on some of those previous episodes, because before, we talked about how the CPA worked with the client, which were amazing. They had some amazing insight and tidbits. If you haven't seen them yet, check out our playlist. There's a link down at the bottom to check out those prior videos. But Paul, something I've been thinking about as I reflect back on those prior first few videos we did, one of the terms I heard you say in those sessions was kind of the bare minimum. So I'm dying to know, what comes next as firms move past just the bare minimum at their practice?
Yeah, okay. Thanks for the introduction, Garrett. As you rightly say, previous episodes, we talked really about the three key lessons from my time at Latham's. Number one was the separation of backwards and forwards services, in particular, so you could create a client roadmap. Number two was really understanding client needs, doing it in a systematic, diagnostic way to scale client opportunities. And number three was creating distinct proactive services paid properly by the client for providing proactivity. And as you say there's a recurring theme around those lessons, and they're all to do with how the CPA works with the client. And as you also quite rightly say, in my opinion, and what we discovered was that these represent the bare minimum in terms of the transformation to becoming what I call now today a 21st century advisor. But the truth is, that's the bare minimum. And most CPAs, in my experience, will want to do more than the bare minimum. And what they're going to want to do is, well, to coin a phrase, it's not just do as I say to their business owner clients, but be able to also do as I do. And what that really means is being able to say, this is what we do in our CPA business. So the CPA is going to want to transform their own CPA business into what I call a proper business. And I actually think, similarly to previously, they need to think about three key business issues that appertain to their CPA business. One really is, how do they engage their team so that it becomes an interesting and exciting place for their people to work, and really so that they can retain their best talent. Number two is how the CPA wins the right type of client for their CPA business so that the CPA can make the most of their forward-looking 21st century opportunities. And number three is how the CPA can actually build what I call a business brand and business equity value so they can create longer-term capital value. Does that make sense?
That makes complete sense. And I'm really interested to kind of hear your insight on those 3 points, because they're so pivotal to a firm today that I mean, I could talk all day long about kind of engaging your workforce and how important that is. If you want to be successful as any kind of company, I don't care if you're a CPA firm or you make the widget, you've got to have an engaged workforce. You've got to find the right type of clients, and you got to build brand equity. Those are all three tremendous points that firms in the US either haven't thought about yet or are struggling with. So I'm dying to kind of learn just for myself your insight from when you already did this, the way we can learn from the past. So I'm just looking forward to your sharing more of your wisdom on those topics.
Yeah, and I think the starting point really is to understand why CPAs don't focus on those things. And the reality is that they don't, because they are what I call client-centric. So they start from the position of being client-centric. Those bare minimum we went through before were all to do with how the CPA works with the client, and they tend not to focus on their team or what type of clients they want to win as a business or building brand and equity value. And the reason why they don't is because they're client-centric. And you sort of have to then think, so I wonder why that is. Why is the CPA so client-centric? And then I always say, why don't you look at the boardroom table? If you look at any normal, proper business and look around the boardroom table, I mean, this is just a generalization, but there's usually about 5 people sat around that table. There's a boss who's sort of the CEO. You've got somebody who's probably responsible for finance and just finance. You've probably got somebody responsible for business operations, if you like, the factory or the delivery of services. You've got somebody who's responsible for sales or marketing. And so they've all got a role. If you look at the CPA's boardroom table, the people who are sat around that table, they're all very important people. They're called partners, but they all do the same job. They all focus on client service, and they don't focus on the CPA business. They're focused on serving clients. And so what I see a lot of is that CPAs are what I call client service providers, rather than the CPA building a business that happens to provide client services. And there's quite a subtle distinction between those points. They're client service providers rather than building a business that provides client services. And I think this is actually a really big topic. And then once the CPA begins to focus on their own business, then they start to think, well, how do I build team engagement? How do I attract the right type of clients? And how do I attract or build business value and equity value? And the truth is, there's not a quick answer to those questions, Garrett, and they all really need to be focused on with a bit more time in their own right.
Yeah, and I'm dying to get into that, but I think to start with on this reshaping of this idea, you hit the nail on the head there for all of those partners in CPA firms, or if you want to be a partner in a CPA firm, if you want to be successful, there's a differentiation. You're either a client-facing service provider or you're helping to grow the firm. And there's kind of 2 separate pieces to that. There's 2 separate sides. Both are critically important. In the past, firms focused only in the U.S. exclusively on the client-facing side. And just because you're client-facing doesn't mean you're ready to help grow the firm and make it more successful, take it to the next level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it may well be, by the way, that is a perfectly relevant service to offer, but you can't have it that everybody only does that. Otherwise, you'll never grow a proper business.
Yeah, you are never going to grow. Perfectly well said. You're never going to grow a proper business, and that's why CPA firms struggle to grow a proper business. So hopefully, you can take this knowledge, go back to your firm, and start to make a difference. Keep learning from what Paul's sharing. That's what I want to ask you as you're watching out there. Do you think your firm is really ready to make this shift into becoming the most relevant advisor? Well, I hope after watching this, look into the future, you're more prepared. You're soaking up the knowledge that Paul has to share. And if you want to take a test and see if you're really ready to do it, if you're ready to maximize your business potential, become the most relevant advisor for your clients, take the Biz Survey and find out. Because a special offer for watching the show, we're going to provide you the results of your Biz Score in a quick pub meeting, as Paul likes to say, to review the results with the Hay and Rock team. There's a link below to take the Biz test. I encourage you at your firm, take the test, see where you score, see how ready your firm is for future success. Thanks for watching, everybody. Click to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as always, we challenge you today to take action to change the world, invest in yourself.